Hey guys, what's up? This is Chase Castle with DQ on the War Room with special guest Evan Krick. How's it going, guys?
It's going good, Chase.
Back in action. All about it. I love it.
You know why we're here. It's to talk about football, and I'm happy we got Evan on as a guest. Despite him being a Cowboys fan, this guy knows his football, and I think you were one of our first guests when we started our show back in freshman year, as well, from what I remember.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Back when we lived our lives out of Jogues. But let's get into it. We got some games to review in this first segment. Evan, let's talk about your team. Get it out of the way. Figured you'd want to anyway. A rough day for the Zekeless Cowboys. I can't say I'm disappointed with this result, as the Atlanta Falcons get 27 points and Adrian Claiborne gets 6 sacks against one of the best offensive lines in the league. Granted, minus Tyron Smith. So I'm acknowledging that.
I was going to say, there's a big asterisk with that.
But big win for the Falcons. They needed this win, and the Cowboys definitely didn't. Well, what's your outtake on this?
Well, it was kind of the perfect storm of both huge losses for the Cowboys in both Zeke getting suspended and Tyron Smith getting out. And then, of course, Sean Lee exiting the game, but that was obviously during the game. But it was also, we were playing a Falcons team that was kind of entering desperation mode. So it kind of ended up turning into this perfect storm of, like, the Cowboys were, missing key pieces, and the Falcons were like, all right, here we go. We're going in Jerry World. It was actually in Atlanta. And then all the turmoil between Jerry and who was the Falcons owner?
Arthur Blank.
Yep. So it was really like juices were flowing, and it just ended up going all wrong for the Cowboys, all wrong. But it starts with the offensive line. I think this game kind of proves how important the left tackle position is. Some people say it's probably the second most important position in football next to the quarterback, and this kind of just shows it, because you take a Cowboys offense that had scored 28 points in, I think it was the last 7 straight games, and then to all of a sudden take out your left tackle, remove Zeke, and now you put up only 7. So, I mean,
yeah,
what can you do?
Like it's got to be sort of rough. Just Zeke not being there. Like, I thought the Cowboys would be able to run it, and they could. Like, both Alfred Morris averaged 4.8 yards a carry, Rod Smith 4.7. I think they can still run it, but the thing is, like, Zeke is more than just a running back. He's also a dangerous pass threat. If you're in a third down situation, do you trust Alfred Morris, Rod Smith, Darren McFadden in the backfield? You trust Zeke to get
and a good pass protector too.
Yeah.
He helps out not only with his, great plays, but he's the type of guy that, even though his stats are usually pretty amazing, most of his great work is when he turns a negative play into like a 2-yard gain. Mm-hmm. When the blocking breaks down, he's stuck in the backfield, but then he still manages to gain 3 yards. Those are the type of plays that you're not going to get from an Alfred Morris or a Rod Smith. And that's kind of what separates them. Because, when everything goes right and the offensive line's clicking, Alfred Morris can rush for 100 yards and Rod Smith can probably do the same. But when things break down, because, not every play is going to be run perfectly, it's Zeke's ability to, make up for other people's mistakes is kind of what takes him to the next level.
Now, I got a question about another player, and this has sort of been a season-long, I guess, issue. But Dez Bryant, he's had 42 receptions on 84 targets for 478 yards. And I'm not saying he's had a horrible season, but like he's not really the star that like you think Dez Bryant. He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and he's just not. I know they're run game heavy, but even last year I think you saw a little bit more of Dez Bryant, at least flashy plays, and you haven't really seen that a lot this year.
Yeah, you haven't, and I think it's more because he's turning into one of those players that kind of Dallas used to key off. They use his routes and his keys to kind of set up other players and get the other offense going in other ways. He's another player that makes his impact far beyond what his stats show.
Mhm.
With whether it's I guess drawing extra coverage downfield, or making sure people are like keeping an eye on him and then opening up something else down beneath him. But yeah, I think he's turning more into that player than the flashy feed him the ball like Antonio Brown type.
Now, one final question about this Cowboys team. Dak Prescott. Do you see him? And heck, this will probably be something we talk about in the second segment as well. Maybe getting a little bit here though, but Dak Prescott, can he function well enough to keep this team winning? Clearly, it didn't work this game. Falcons aren't an easy match. They were in the Super Bowl last year. I don't care if they were 4-4 going into it. They were better than a 4-4 team. Had some bad luck. Can Dak Prescott lead this team without Zeke? I know Tyron Smith not being there is also huge, and he might play a lot better without him. But 27-7 isn't just a tackle missing or just a running back. There's more to it there.
It's a Sean Lee missing too, because when Sean Lee disappears, the defense literally disappears with them, and it's crazy how that sounds if you don't know how the Cowboys defense is built. But literally their defense is built and schemed so that every single play is supposed to be funneled to Sean Lee. He's supposed to, in theory, if everything goes to plan, he is going to make every single tackle. And that's just the way the defense is schemed. So when you remove that type of player from this defense and you have to have someone else step up and try and make those plays that really Sean Lee is the only one who can make, that's when teams rip them to shreds. And I mean, 27.
I agree, but look, I agree, and I've seen the stats, and believe me, Sean Lee's probably the best middle linebacker in the league, except for maybe Luke Kuechly. It's like 1A, 1B with them. I'm not denying his presence, and that's 100% true. In these next two games, he's expected to be out. It's going to be brutal for the Cowboys defense. I 100% agree. One of the biggest reasons they were good last year is because he stayed healthy all year. But 7 points, that's not Sean Lee.
It's Chaz Green. Yeah. It's Chaz Green. But yeah, like I said, it was the perfect storm. So they were able to get up early, 7-0, and then they fought back, and then it was the turnovers came at key points, and I think I saw they punted from the Falcons 40, so they were on enemy territory in close, getting closer to the red zone, and they ended up punting just because of whatever happened, but. It was the perfect storm because once they got down, you can't be running the ball when you're down 20 points, and then just no one was. Chaz Green had one of the worst games of all time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can say that pretty confidently. Yeah. He really did not do well. So.
All right, let's move on to another game. DQ, I haven't heard from you in a little bit. Jets Buccaneers. This is my lock of the week, and I forgot we made a deal last week. I completely blanked until literally bringing this up that I'd Photoshop a picture. Like if we lose our lock of the week, I'll Photoshop a picture of me being whatever the other team's logo was. So I got to get a picture of myself being a Buccaneer, whether it's a player, an actual Buccaneer, or something. And it's
an actual Buccaneer.
Yeah, and it's
actual Buccaneer.
I'll probably Photoshop myself onto the Buccaneer from that commercial with what's the guy? Charlie Day. Just I'll get myself
Jameis Winston with the W.
Or Jameis Winston with the W. I'll make a few. But Damian, I said it on the show. I learned nothing at Fairfield because the one simplest thing about while I was at Fairfield to learn was that you never trust the Jets when they're expected to do well because they will always just tear your heart out. I've seen it time and time again, and the Jets just and I don't even know why. I'm a Redskins fan. I have enough bad luck with my own team and how my team's done that I just somehow attach myself to the Jets as well. I'm mad, and really the only thing I can be mad at is myself. Buccaneers win this 15-10. What the hell happened, DQ?
They just came out flat. I could tell right from the very beginning. Like when you're a Jets fan and you kind of grown to you become accustomed to knowing what's going to happen the rest of the game when you watch all these games as a Jets fan, and they just came out extremely flat early on. They're very conservative play calling too. This is a defense that was arguably one of the worst in the league, especially in its secondary. And Josh McCown is second in the NFL in completion percentage. So you'd think going in that they would attack the secondary, they would send Robbie Anderson deep, and they would have a lot of guys underneath like Safarian Jenkins and Jermaine Kearse to just kind of take advantage of them playing soft coverage. But it almost looked like they had the wrong game plan going in, which is kind of bizarre because you would think they would attack their weakness, but they never did. I mean, the only time they showed signs of life was right at the end when Robbie Anderson caught the long touchdown pass. I believe it was about 30, 40 yards out. But other than that, I mean, the defense gave them every opportunity to win, but I felt like the coaching staff, offense, there was just nothing clicking down the end. I think the most classic point of the game was when Fitzpatrick threw the pick. It was Josh McCown that threw the pick all the way down the end zone, going for Robbie Anderson, and then the very next play right after that, Fitzpatrick throws another gimme right back to the Jets defense. So if that game had to be summed up, like the equivalent of a rock fight, it was those two plays of McCown throwing deep to Anderson and getting picked off, then Fitzpatrick going right back to Darryl Roberts, and then the Jets get the ball back, and then they do nothing. They just punt the ball. So that's literally what the entirety of the game right there. But definitely disappointing. They're going into the bye with a loss. They're 4-6 now. And who's the guy that's on KFC for Barstool? He's always got the Jets shirt. And it's,
KFC.
It is
it's
KFC.
It's KFC. Yeah. As the saying goes, tank is on. Tank is back on in New York. Tank is back on. Because he's always back and forth. That's the best part. He's always just like, oh, no. We're legit. We're back. We're going to make a playoff run. And then the next week, he's like, tank is on. Tank is on. We're back on. We're going for the number one pick. So
I feel like it's almost a little bit late to start the tank. Like the Jets found a way to screw up the tank.
Yeah. As they find a way to screw up everything possible to find longevity in this franchise, they find it again this year. It's a classic Jets season of just always being stuck in purgatory.
They're going to end up drafting like a Josh Allen in like the late second round, like somehow trade up to the second round, draft him. Yeah, get someone who's will he ever be good, and then probably not start him for 4 years and let his contract run out. Like what looks like is going to happen with who do you call it? Hackenberg.
Yep. He may never see the green grass of a football field ever again. This guy, I don't know what the deal is with him. I think the reporters asked Todd Bowles to see if there was any chance that they might play, and he gave a hard no. So my guess is that McCown will continue to play so long as the Jets are in contention. But their schedule coming up is not going to be favorable. They have Carolina, they have Atlanta, Denver, Kansas City later. Then they have to play New England again. So I'm not liking their chances of getting the winning record in the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm. It did feel like they had some easier teams on their schedule early on, and that's part of the reason. Granted, they at 4 wins right now, I still think this is ahead of what you'd expect the Jets to be at this point in the season, because they were projected down with the Browns, like the very bottom dregs of the league. And I still don't think they're that. They're a little bit above it. They're not too far from it. It's within sight, but they're not really there. They've been playing well above that, and Todd Bowles deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, he has done a good job. I will commend with that. But it's weird because they're within arm's length. Technically, right now, they're within arm's length of a top 5 pick, and they're almost like a fingertip away from the playoff spot. So they're in this weird spot right now. So as a fan, you're still kind of conflicted as to what to root for right now. Like
it's time to pick a side.
It's time to pick a side, though. I was rooting for them to win, but now
they're stuck in purgatory.
I'm just stuck in purgatory. I will always be stuck in purgatory. It'll just be a never-ending.
It's a Jets purgatory. This happens like every year.
It does happen every year.
Every year, ever since the AFC Championship game, it's just been purgatory. So it's been what 2010.
Yeah.
Going on almost 8 years now. Yeah, this is a long time in purgatory. It's been it's getting a little crazy now.
All right, let's move on. I'll get to my team. I'll try to make it fast. I was at this game. Redskins, it's frustrating. First thing I gotta say, anyone who says this is Kirk Cousins' fault, I think you are blind, you're stupid, and you didn't watch this game. Yes, he threw one bad pick. His 4th pick of the year, including with which another pick should never have been called a pick if you looked at the replay. And he still put up 30 points against the Vikings. Maybe DJ Swearinger had a touchdown, or not a touchdown, but a pick that put you like very close, like on the 1 yard line. So maybe even make it 23. There's only been one other team to put up over 20 points on this Vikings defense, and that's the Steelers against them. Okay, so anybody who says it's a Kirk Cousins' fault, no. If you put up 30 points on the Vikings, even 23, you should be winning that game.
It's no small feat.
The Redskins secondary, which was supposed to be a strength this season, and for the most part had been, I don't know. They just disappeared. Josh Norman got burned. Breeland got burned. Swearinger was sort of the only player out there, and even though because he made 2 picks and made a few big tackles, but he also missed 4 as well. You made Case Keenum look like he's Canton bound. I'm just afraid of what's going to happen with Breeze when the Skins play him.
Is Case Keenum now elite? Is he in that same conversation as Joe Flacco where you just constantly ask, but is he elite? He's actually been playing fairly well.
I think Case Keenum isn't that bad, but I think the biggest player is that Adam Thielen isn't just another guy. He's projected for over 1,400 yards this season. Adam Thielen is a top-tier receiver. It sounds weird to say, this guy out of Minnesota State, that you hardly knew about last year and was a waiver wire pickup, is actually doing really well. Him and Diggs, that's a 1-2 punch that most teams don't even have. And
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. I was just going to say that, what Diggs kind of showed in the first few games, you kind of expected he was going to take this role, but then all of a sudden, what did he get hurt or something?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Thielen has risen to Thielen has just risen above him and kind of taken that role that everyone kind of saw Diggs doing after those first 2 games where he went off.
And I don't even think that it's Diggs not playing well because he's playing phenomenally, and I'm a big Diggs fan. Go Maryland, go Terps. I watched him play there, and he was great. And he's still playing great. It's just Thielen's risen just above, and it's not even. It's just that this is like a dangerous offense as well as defense. The Vikings are a very good team. They impressed me here. Redskins had so many freaking drops. They didn't have a running game. The Redskins are just so injured. They got most of their offensive line back because the past 2 weeks they've been playing with nobodies, literally nobodies, like backups of backups. One guy who played actual snaps met Kirk Cousins in the locker room before the Seahawks game. So I don't know how we won that. I legitimately don't. I'm not joking when I say that. One of our offensive linemen met Kirk Cousins in the locker room before the game, and he actually played 5 snaps. We're just so hurt. We just lost. It just came out. Will Compton's now lost for the year. One of our backup middle linebackers. So now we have a 4th string middle linebacker, a 1st string middle linebacker starting. I don't know who their backups currently are. I legitimately don't know another backup middle linebacker. Maybe we'll just play safeties. And also both Zach Brown and Martrell Spate have been hurt at points in this season. I don't know what to say. Rob Kelly's hurt, put on IR, but I'm sort of happy because I like P. Ryan more. Rob Kelly has not been good this year. I guess we'll see. I still like this team. I think they've had the hardest schedule in the league. Well, they have. If you look at just win-loss record of all the teams they played, at 4-5, I don't even think that's bad considering all the injuries. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs though. But if we can find a way to have Kirk stay, I don't think we'll be that bad.
I was just going to say, with as well as that offense did, because like you highlighted it, they put up all these points, and then they also left plays on the table.
Tons.
Like there were some easy plays that could have been made to even, boost their total even more. But with as happy you are with their offense, you got to be really disappointed with this defense. Like Case Keenum, 38 points. Like, come on.
I can't tell you how frustrating it is how often they just had a receiver wide open in the middle of the field. D. Hall it looked like his feet were in mud the whole day, and he just came back last week in a great game. And it's crazy because they just held the Seahawks to like 12 points the week before. Like, granted, they had Blair Walsh. Unfortunately for the Redskins, the Vikings didn't have Blair Walsh anymore. But Seahawks, and he missed 3 field goals, but Redskins had their best defensive performance of the week or of the year last week, and then this week they come up with their by far worst performance. Definitely Josh Norman's worst performance as a Redskin. Let's move on to a few other games before we end the segment. Team that had a blowout in a game that I thought the Saints might even. I think I had them winning it, but I think it was going to be close. Saints versus Bills, blow them out 47-10. In Buffalo, like, nobody circles the wagons like the Saints.
Man, just brutal for the Bills Mafia, fans, and it was tough as someone who backed the Bills last week. It was tough to watch. It was
Saints treated the Bills like a folding table.
Oh yeah, they did. It was just, and this was kind of a defining moment in this New Orleans Saints team because it kind of showed that they are not the pass-heavy team that they have been known as for the past 4 or 5, however many years.
Oh,
6
it's got to be 10
rushing touchdowns.
10
6 rushing touchdowns.
10 years.
Man.
When was the last time they had 6 in one game? When was the last time they had more than 2 in one game?
I think they had 2 100-yard rushers, right? Because both Kamara and Ingram had over 100 yards, I think.
Yeah, those guys are the workhorses. Kamara's been huge for this team. He's a very versatile back. I've been surprised that I think they've used him a lot, but I'm surprised that with Kamara's versatility, like with their tendency to be a pass-happy team, that they're willing to stick with Ingram and stick with that ground game. That's what I've been most impressed with. And Brees has just been – I think this might be his first season where he will have less – if he continues with this pace, where he will have less than 4,000 yards and less than 30 touchdowns in his 10 years of being the Saints. Like, he's been the definition of consistency in this league, and that would be pretty crazy. Crazy statement to say, like, Brees is good, but he's no longer the Drew Brees of old that everyone's known him to be.
He doesn't need to be.
Doesn't need to be now.
He doesn't need to
awesome,
be. Yeah.
And the running game's ridiculous.
And that's crazy. This is after they signed Adrian Peterson and then traded him to the Cardinals, and now their running game looks to be one of the best in the league.
Trading away AP was one of the smartest moves they've ever done. The AP signing was exactly the same mistake the Eagles made with DeMarco Murray 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever year that was. Yeah. It was the exact same mistake, and I feel like, we say this now, and it's so obvious to us. How is it not obvious to these people who, get paid millions of dollars to make these decisions? How is it you got to find a player that fits your scheme? Adrian Peterson is not a player that would fit into the Saints scheme in any situation. I don't see it.
They literally drafted Kamara in the 3rd round, out of Tennessee. They spent like a one of the higher picks on Kamara to be that change of pace back versus Mark Ingram's just pound it down your throat mentality. They already had what they needed. There was no need at all. And Trey Edmonds, look at him in this game. 9 carries, 48 yards, including granted, one of those carries was for 41 yards, but also ended up being a touchdown. This Saints team has just sort of completely changed the way they look. Going into this year, I thought the Saints it's just going to sort of be Brees and Sean Payton's final year there. Whatever, who cares? They haven't been doing well the past few years. It's probably just sort of going to be okay. Just sort of end of an era tour. No, they're 7-2 right now, one of the best teams in the NFL, and that offense is unbelievable. And their defense doesn't look bad this year either. I know not to say the Bills have a great offense, but oh my gosh, they had Tyrod Taylor taken out of the game. Shady was held to under 50 yards. This impresses me.
I'm here, but hey, stay with me because I'm going to throw out a little stay woke on this Saints defense.
Oh, stay woke.
Because this whole Saints defense is good. Here's the past couple scores. October 1st, this was I think this is week 4. They shut out Miami. That's not really a big feat. They went in their bye week. Then they gave up 38 points and won 52-38 to Detroit. So they gave up 30 points to Detroit.
But I think they had 3 touchdowns in that game, though, right? The defense did.
Yeah, they might have. So after that, it's still, they weren't that great in the Detroit game.
Okay.
No.
So then after Detroit, they go to Green Bay, and I think that was the first game without Aaron Rodgers, if I'm not mistaken. So they held Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers to 17. Then you go to Mitch Trubisky and the Bears, and you hold Mitch Trubisky to 12. Then you go to Tampa Bay without Jameis Winston, and you hold him to 10.
Okay.
Now we're in Buffalo.
Okay, okay. I see what you're saying, but if in the
same, stay woke. Just to stay woke.
Okay, they're still better than what we expected them to be.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying they're a top 10 defense, but the Saints have been trying to figure out their defense for the past decade and haven't been able to even be mediocre. And right now they're probably middle of the league, and you can't really okay, these are going up against some bad teams, but still, you look at that Panthers defense, they're supposed to be a good defense. They still allowed 21 points to the Dolphins yesterday. And the Saints shut them out. And look at the Panthers who put up 35. The Saints held to 13. Granted, the Panthers have been like the Jekyll and Hyde team of the NFL. They'll come out one week and look dominant, and the next week just docile. So, it is what it is. Let's move on. One final game before this segment ends. Let's get Chargers versus Jaguars. We had a vintage, what do you call it? Oh my God, Phillip Rivers meltdown. You had Blake Bortles almost screw it up. Yeah. Just the battle of two quarterbacks who didn't want their teams to win, and the Jaguars ended up somehow winning it. And it was because of the Jaguars' defense. It ended the way it should have.
Yep. I wanted this game to end in a tie so badly. So badly. And you know what? This was my favorite. By far, I think this was my favorite game to watch of the week. Just because it was so many things were going wrong, but then also the team somehow also had something right. Like we were talking pre-show, the fact that when Blake Bortles threw that interception in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left, and somehow the Jaguars still had 3 timeouts left. Yeah, they still had 3 timeouts left so they could get the ball back. Was incredible. It was incredible how they had such good clock management that they still had the 3 timeouts to give themselves a chance at the end of the game. Unbelievable.
That was prime real estate. I think you can't count the amount of times in your hands, multiple hands, how many times Phillip Rivers has lost by 3 points or a touchdown these past 3 years. I mean, it is actually amazing. I almost want to find out the statistic on this because they have lost so many close games.
Yeah,
now you have to feel sad for them because this is just kind of getting ridiculous, and they just haven't been able to get out of that funk of closing games in so long, and you just don't know what it is. And Rivers is one of those guys who want to see him go out on a good note, win a championship, but he's just always been stuck with this team that just can't close out games. It's just been. Oh, God.
Phillip Rivers, and this is going to be sort of a crazy comparison and something sort of out of left field, I'm not going to lie, and I think it takes a little bit of a Redskins fan to know. When Rex Grossman was starter for the Redskins, every single game the Redskins were within winning in the fourth quarter, and they'd somehow blow it up. He made every single game interesting. He'd have some crazy throw. He was a much worse version of Brett Favre, where everything goes to a pick. Every touchdown Favre had went as a pick, and every pick went as a touchdown. Phillip Rivers is starting to become that, where every single game he plays, even that game against the Pats last week, was not a blowout. Every single game's going to come down to the end, and then more likely than not, he's going to blow it somehow. And I feel bad because I like Rivers. I feel like he hasn't really had the best receivers around him. He has Keenan Allen, but Keenan Allen, when he was great, was the 5 games he played maybe total before his year after year after year of injury, and now I don't think he's the same player that he was. He just doesn't have the pieces around him. Granted, Melvin Gordon's good this year, but he's starting to get in the back part of Rivers' career. I sort of want to see Rivers leave San Diego, or not San Diego. Sorry, he's already left there. I want to see him go to some other team and do well, but this team just seemed cursed. Right? Yeah, I still think
he's 35.
He's same draft as Eli, right?
Yeah. It's gotta be
and Roethlisberger.
Yeah, so they're 36, 37.
He is getting old, but he doesn't look as feeble as Eli does now.
Yeah,
he doesn't look as
see that.
He can keep a team in game where I think Eli right now just can't do anything. Granted, Eli has no receivers. I'm not even worse than Rivers. But
nor offensive line. He literally has 0.
He has nothing.
In 2017, would you rather have, if you had to pick between Eli Manning, quarterback in your team, or Phillip Rivers, who would it be?
Is this in the playoffs or regular season?
It doesn't matter. You have one football game to win.
That is a good question, though.
You have one football game. Oh, that's true.
Because
I guess that if
Eli was never a great. Eli and Flacco, I always put in the same sort of boathouse where the team needs to get them to the playoffs. But once you get them to the playoffs, anything can happen. But I think Rivers. I sort of think Rivers is a better quarterback 90% of the game, and then almost by default you have to go to Eli because you like Rivers just blows fourth quarter like the back half of fourth quarters like no other.
Maybe if we somehow morphed them together into one super quarterback, where Phil just played the first 3 quarters, and then you can bring in Eli to close the game and win the game for you. Maybe that's the missing piece to like all these NFL teams. They just gotta play Philip Rivers the first 3 quarters, and then Eli Manning bring him in to close the game.
Sew them together.
Yep.
Seriously.
Wow.
All right. Well, that ends the first segment. We'll see you on the other side. Talk a little. I think we got a little bit more to talk about the Cowboys as we touched on earlier. I want to hit on Jerry Jones and all that's happening there with the owners. Also, a little NFC playoff picture. Stay tuned.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Shimmy, shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah.
All right, what's up, guys? Segment 2 of week. Oh, this is week 12 War Room. Wow, that's crazy. We're already at week 12.
It's kind of scary. Let's not talk about it.
As the crow flies, this is pretty fast.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say we're moving. This crow's got the wind to his back, and he's moving right now.
Let's get into talking about something we were talking about during the break. Going over this whole Jerry Jones, him possibly getting kicked out of the league, which is, I think, we'll get into his whole ordeal with Papa John's, his ordeal with Arthur Blank, as was mentioned against Falcons, just his ordeal with every single owner in the league, and just Jerry Jones himself. Essentially like what seems to be becoming like the Trump of the NFL. Evan, being the Cowboys fan, what's your take on this? And I want to say the first question, the first question I have, was he behind Papa John's leaving the NFL and going against the NFL?
Man, what a loaded question. Yeah. Papa John, man, what an interesting ride he's been with the. What was it? It was not even 2 years ago when the Broncos won, where he was like the first one to kiss Peyton Manning after they won the Super Bowl. He's slowly risen to one of the most marquee people in the NFL, which is kind of crazy because he's got nothing to do with football, but apparently he does.
Fair market pizza too, honestly.
And him rising to that marquee is definitely what's hurting his brand, right?
Oh yeah.
That was the pinnacle of his moment, just being on the field with Peyton Manning after winning the Super Bowl. There will be nothing that surpasses that for him, because that was the whole thing. They did so many commercials together. It was him and Peyton, and they were almost inseparable in a marketing sense. And then seeing them together, and then Peyton retiring, it's like.
But I feel like no one thought it was real. No one thought it was real until that moment. That moment where people were like, "Wait, you guys actually know each other? This is a real thing." It was kind of crazy.
Because I think Peyton owns at least a 6 or 7 franchises of Papa John's. So I think that he ends up doing some of that advertising just sort of for free because it helps himself. But Jerry Jones, on the other hand, owns or is at least part owner of over 100 franchises of Papa John's. And Papa John's, when Jerry Jones is angry with Zeke getting suspended and just the whole Roger Goodell in general, isn't that happy at the time. And Papa John's pulls out saying that, the NFL and how they've handled all the kneeling and protests is why Papa John's isn't doing well. That's definitely why. It's not the fact that they don't have better ingredients or better pizza. It's just Papa John's.
No.
But yeah, so that combined with, I think Jerry wanted to sue the NFL. I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. Is Jerry wanting to sue the NFL because of Zeke, or is it because of him being removed off of the committee? I wasn't too sure of that.
I think it's him being removed off the committee,
yeah,
or just how, or just how. Yeah, I think he's stated that it wasn't because it's
like an extra thing to throw in, and this.
I think that Zeke, if this whole Zeke suspension didn't happen, I don't think this would be happening either, because I'm not saying that that Jerry Jones would be in favor of Goodell getting a new deal. But I don't think that he'd be pushing as hard because Goodell just pretty much screwed him over. Granted, it's more the collection of owners, and I always like to see it as that. Like, I always tell Patriots fans, say those Fire Goodell shirts that Barstool puts out. That helps Goodell more than anything else because it's not fire John Mara. It's not fire Arthur Blank. It's not fire a lot of these other guys. And so I think that if you actually want to affect any of these teams who impose sanctions on you, you got to go after their owners. But or say I'm going to stop buying Gillette if you don't like Kraft or something you know what I mean.
He's essentially being paid to be the entire league's scapegoat. That is what he is. And I don't think a lot of people realize this, but his role as being the most hated, individual of football or the face of football or the face of, why are there so many concussions and all this nonsense. It's all him because that's how the owners want it to be, allegedly. But yeah,
for a couple $1 million a year, I'll take a couple hate.
Hey, you know what?
I mean, honestly, I can do it.
Private jet for life.
He's already being paid $40 million a year. Do you realize that?
Oh yeah, and the private jet too. Honestly, come on.
The amount of
throw it in there. Why?
The amount of money the NFL has earned while he's been an owner is unbelievable. I'm trying to find this old presentation I had. I had one for a sports media class, and just some of the facts behind what the NFL has become while he's been the manager of the NFL or the commissioner is just unbelievable. And if you just look at how much money players are earning on average, the combined wealth of players in the past few years, or it might have even just been since he got there, there's $2 billion more going to players alone, combined wealth from when he started till now. So any player that also complains about him, I'm just giving you the heads up. There's $2 billion more going to players because of just how much the NFL has grown since then.
Does anyone know if he actually does anything? Because if you ask me what does Roger Goodell do day to day, I couldn't tell you. I mean, no. He didn't in the Z case. He didn't even. I don't think he was even a part of either hearing. Right? He chose someone else to make the decision. He chose the former commissioner or something like that. Yeah. So what exactly does he do? He is the scapegoat. Is what he does. He sits in his room.
Scapegoat. And find another low-key scapegoat to put on somebody else, so it doesn't look like it's totally his fault.
That's the thing. If he disappears and he goes away, who becomes the face of NFL and concussions?
He'll have a private jet for life and just fly off with flipping the bird just out to everyone, saying, "I'm still living the life. I'm happy. I'm sitting in my villa in Capri, and I'm just gonna live the life." I have made a case in that sports management class to say you want to keep Goodell because right now he has leverage on the NFL in terms of he's sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars that he's already earned from being the commissioner for this long, that if you sign him to another deal, he has leverage to say, okay, if you're going to fire me, I can still fall back on the $500 million I've made or something crazy. I don't think it's that much, but it's not as far from it as you think. Granted, with taxes and stuff, it's definitely not. But I can fall back on the millions and tens, hundreds of millions of dollars I made and go live my life, and I'll be fine because I have FU money. And
if he's been smart with it.
If the NFL decides to bring in someone else to be their commissioner, that the NFL and all the owners are going to hold a lot more leverage because that guy probably isn't living off as much money and sees much more value in the probably $20 million that they'll pay him. And the owners will get away with more, where I'm not saying Roger Goodell is even going to do that or go against the owners because he hasn't, or he'll go against one owner and just sort of lead it by a mob, but at least he has a chance to do that. It's just crazy. And I actually found the stat. In 2006, when he was brought in, the salary cap was $102 million. It's 2017 now, $167 million per team. That's $2 billion more in 2017 than 2006, and that's $1.23 million more just per player in the NFL.
Can't make everybody happy.
Every year, the average player is getting $1.23 million more. The thing, I think the thing that people often forget is that this is also like when the NFL tries to make money and like these Thursday night games that players might complain about, that Thursday night game is bringing in so much revenue to the NFL, and that goes back to the players. The players can't expect to be paid as much as they do and have your cake and eat it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the main part of the beef that's between, Goodell and Jerry is kind of like Jerry's really stuck out his leg for the NFL in the past, and he's kind of I think he helped move the teams to. I think he moved both. He helped finance both teams moving to LA. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And so he's looking back at all the stuff he's done for the NFL to help the NFL and help it grow, and then you have these the Zeke suspension where Jerry Jones was pretty confident that he was not going to end up getting suspended after, reviewing all the information. When he woke up that morning and saw that he got served 6 games, he was not a happy camper.
Mm.
And then, combine that with all the things that are happening with, the other owners and them removing his, voting rights off that, board. It's gotten ugly, as I say.
I definitely say there's slowly growing bigger and bigger movement of owners that are against him. And this isn't the first time Goodell's actually hit the Cowboys with penalties, and this happened with the Redskins as well. After the labor contract disputes, there was a salary cap penalty placed upon the Redskins and Cowboys the year after for going over the cap in a year that there technically was no cap. And I think it's just blatant collusion, like illegal collusion, where Goodell ended up sort of screwing over DC and Dallas in that time. So it's sort of mob mentality with the NFL, where a bunch of owners say, "Okay, Goodell, enact these restrictions on this team, follow through with Deflategate, suspend Zeke." But I also, not that I think Zeke necessarily deserves a full suspension. I think he probably deserved a game or two, because he well, I don't think he does have domestic violence. I don't think he's treated women in necessarily the right way or put himself in position. Exactly.
The video on St. Patrick's Day pretty much shows you he deserved to get some suspension.
And this is coming right after the NFL put in saying that they're going to have 6-game suspensions for people who get into domestic violence. And again, I think the woman set him up. I'm not saying that Zeke is is worthy of that, but the NFL set that as a precedent, and they got a lot of bad press before, and I think it was Goodell trying to cover that. But then he has a mistake, and then, does he go back on it? No, he's stubborn. We're the NFL. We get what we want. I think it should probably have been reduced to, probably 2, maybe 3 games. I thought in the summer there was no way it was going to get more than 4. And when it came out with 6, I was sort of surprised. Sort of happy, but sort of surprised.
It's the whole reason, it's turned into, or domestic violence, committing domestic violence. That's not a label you want to have on you. And because there's so much evidence, and there's so much evidence of the NFL mishandling this whole case, it's almost like they're not really arguing, in court. They're not really arguing whether or not this is right, this is what he deserves. They're almost just arguing, we have the right to do this.
Yeah.
Right? It's no longer Zeke deserves this. It's we're the NFL, we can do this.
Because the problem has been there was no consistency with these punishments. Guys would be doing whatever they want, whether it was Adrian Peterson with his son, which was unfortunate, and because there was also a story about feeling like it was discipline, and then Ray Rice before that with this girl on video, yeah. So, and not only was it on video, they were not consistent with these punishments, and they were getting a lot of flack for that. So I think the NFL has finally made a decision to say, okay, just whatever happens, it doesn't matter whatever the level of evidence is. If we feel like there's a suitable amount of evidence or enough evidence to say that this definitely happened in some way, it's got to be 6 games, and that's that. It's just, and we can't sugarcoat it. We can't reduce it. This is what it is, and that's how it is. Because if you cut it down, then what was the point of really? I just feel like there's no consistency there. So I feel like they had to like kind of put their foot down on one person. And unfortunately, Zeke is one of those guys that fell into that category of kind of being the first guy, the first one off the gangplank, so to speak, of kind of getting this punishment. But if we see down the line, like hopefully you don't want to see this happen, but if it does happen down the line and these guys are getting the 6-game suspensions, then we'll look back and say, okay, the NFL actually kind of, did the right thing and started making these punishments a little more official, and we're sticking to that rather than just saying, why not? We'll bring it back 3 or 2 games. Like, I just think they eventually had to kind of just stick with one punishment.
Them putting their foot down, I've actually no problem with that because it got to a certain point where they were in a position where they kind of had to. But the fact that it almost, being so transparent about the investigation, almost you would think would help them, but in this case, it did the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. It really, really hurt them, and it kind of, putting their foot down in this case, with all the evidence that shows like the lack of credibility that this investigation had, it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
I'm also I think part of the blame, and I think a lot of players are probably thinking this, and Zeke, DeMaurice Smith, when he bargained in the collective bargaining agreement that happened in, what was it, 2010? Like the last collective bargaining agreement. Maybe 2011. I think it was 2010. When that happened, he allowed Goodell to have pretty much the ultimate power, where one of the NFL rules is that what he says goes. And then if it goes to like the appeal process, guess who's the judge, jury, and executioner of that? It's Roger Goodell. He has all the power in the NFL, and DeMaurice Smith allowed him to have that during the collective bargaining agreement. This upcoming one, I'm very interested to see because Goodell wants this in place, but I think it's going to be almost impossible for the players' union to agree to him having the same amount of power he's had over the past few years since the last collective bargaining agreement. Granted, I'm looking 5 years ahead in the future right now.
Just pray for no lockout. no extended lockout.
Yeah. I don't think we can deal with that again.
I know. I've heard Chris Cooley on the radio, and he talked about the lockout. That the last one, when they were talking about possibly holding a lockout, and they sort of did for a portion of the offseason, the players weren't ready. Like, the players weren't ready. Like, then there were a number of players that just didn't have the money saved up. Didn't have the sort of the financial means to hold, like, to stay together, which is sad to think about. These guys are getting paid the minimum, like the minimum is like a few $100,000. They should have the money to at least fall back on for a while, and their expenditure just couldn't. This one, if the NFLPA is smart, they better like 2-3 years before be like, hey, in case of a lockout, have the security fund. So in case this happens, we can have more leverage. Let's move on, though. We need to get to the NFC playoff picture. We've actually talked about this whole owners issue, but that's sort of the biggest topic in the NFL right now. It's a shame that's the biggest topic is like Jerry Jones, the owners fighting, not like Sean McVay, a rookie 32-year-old head coach, is leading the Rams to like 7-2 and one of the best teams in the NFL out of the blue. Like, that should be like the normal like NFL like talk, and it really just hasn't been. It feels like with the Flakey and everything, it hasn't been for a while. But speaking of the Rams, are they like the best team in the NFC other than the Eagles, I guess? And they still could be better than the Eagles.
So I think this is going to be this game coming up against the Minnesota Vikings is going to be the ultimate test so far this season for the Rams. I feel like it's going to be, it's one of the more legit defenses they've come off or faced against this year, and it's going to really put this offense to the test. But, I really like Wade Phillips as a defensive coordinator, and them. I was looking at it earlier. They hold teams to like only like 17 points a game. They've shut out a couple teams. It's like they're really clicking, and everything's kind of like forming together them all at once, which is good for them.
Like it's ridiculous. they've been blowing out teams. Like when they go up against a bad team, they don't just win; they kill them. The only bad team they've really gone up against, and it wasn't really a blowout, was the 49ers, and that was a close game with 41-39. That was also the 49ers having like, what was it, like losing five games by a margin of like 13 points or something crazy.
Yep.
But they're good. Like they blow out the Texans like 33-7. They blow out the Giants 51-17. They blow out the Cardinals 33-0. And then they have big wins against the Jaguars. They beat the Cowboys with Zeke. Like I get it, they haven't had too many huge wins, but it's impressive enough to say they haven't just won games they should. They've dominated the games they should win.
Mm-hmm. They're on an upswing. I think Sean McVay. It's kind of interesting watching him coach because he's the guy that's he actually like takes a back seat when his team's on defense, or he actually like goes and sits by himself and like hides in a corner and like scribbles plays or whatnot. But yeah, it's all clicking. Goff seems to have taken a step forward and really shows that he's an actual quarterback, which is kind of surprising. I don't think really anyone saw that one coming, but it's all working out for them.
Yeah.
He's good.
Well, definitely got to like the moves they made because they signed Andrew Whitworth, their left tackle, and then they brought in a center for them. So you knew that they were dedicated to Goff. They just had to get the right pieces around him. So once they shored up that offensive line, and then they make the trade for Sammy Watkins, and then they bring in Robert Woods, and then I think they
the line also helps Gurley just go from a horrible sophomore
and then Gurley
year to
coming back this year. I mean, a lot of things have just really been going their way, and they've quietly been building up wins. They haven't been wins that a lot of people have been taking notice of, but you just kind of notice, oh look, the Rams won. Oh look, they won again. Oh, they won again. Oh wow, they blew that team out. So it's one of those things like nobody's really making a lot of noise about them, but you're starting to notice now that they're picking up.
Getting the snowball.
It's the snowball is getting a lot bigger now, and it's half the size of the mountain, and it's rolling down the hill. But this is the game, though. Like Minnesota is a tough defense to go up against, and their offense has been clicking as of late. So if they can show a complete team effort and they don't have to dominate, but if they can win, then this would be the game that I think that would prove that the Rams are legit. And then, but if you go vice versa with the Vikings winning, then you're looking at, okay, well, what kind of the team the Vikings now? Like, I mean, before, like, when Sam Bradford went down, I was like, oh, well, there you go. There's another Viking season that looked promising is out the window. But if they win that game, they could be considered a legit playoff contender as well.
All right, I want to hear your guys' predictions. Who's coming out? Who's winning each division in the NFC? And this is just NFC. We're not going to AFC. Who's winning each division, and who are the wild cards?
So I guess I'll start off. I think it's pretty safe that the Eagles will win the NFC East.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to give my Steven. However,
stay woke.
Cowboys do play. Hey,
no,
shaking his head for the listeners.
No,
Cowboys have yet to play the Eagles. They play them twice. They're 3 games back. You're telling me as long as the Cowboys can take care of business against the Eagles, they will have a chance.
They couldn't take care of business against the Falcons.
And hey, you know what? If you don't have Sean Lee, you don't have Tyron Smith, and obviously already don't have Zeke, it's a long shot. But I was looking at the odds today for the the win of the division. I think it was plus 1,600 for the Cowboys to win the division. There is some huge value there with them playing the Eagles twice, because they literally all it takes is for them to win those 2 games, and then as long as they win those 2 games, they definitely will have at least you'll at least have an opportunity to hedge Week 17. You would think, because I think it's pretty safe to say the Eagles won't go undefeated for the rest of the year. They'll probably, if they lose to the Cowboys twice, they might lose to another team.
The stretch is that next week playing the Eagles. I don't think the Cowboys. I just don't see the Cowboys winning that. They're without Zeke. They're without Sean Lee. Like that's a must win. Okay, come next week, I'll get an audio clip of you just saying, okay, we're not winning the East, but you guys still have a chance at wild card. It's going to be hard.
I'm saying there's value. If you're a betting man, there's huge value on the plus 1,600 or whatever it is on the Dallas Cowboys.
Historically, you should never vote You should never bet on the Cowboys just because the fan base is so big. That Vegas has historically hedged against the Cowboys. Yeah, I'm just saying that because the fan base is so big, not because they've been disappointing. Just they actually hedge against it.
They get so much money each week, regardless of what the line is. So it really doesn't matter. They can always expect money.
So what are your predictions?
So we'll go with Eagles in the East. I'm gonna go Minnesota in the North. Let's go Saints in the South because I don't think Carolina's gonna. They're too inconsistent for me. You alluded to earlier. They're kind of like, yep. So I don't think they'll be.
Carolina still has a spot right now, so I think there could be two teams from the South. You can look at New Orleans and Carolina as those two teams, and then
haven't gotten to my wild card yet, Damien. So
okay, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I'm sorry.
So in the West, I'm gonna just throw this out there. I think Seattle's gonna come out in the West, and I think LA, because we'll talk about our locks later. I'm actually thinking LA might be their week to I don't know. We'll see against Minnesota, but so we got Philly, Minnesota, the Saints, then Seattle, and I guess that would probably leave LA as one wild card team, and probably. That's pretty chalky, but Carolina is the other. If any other team had a chance to get in, it's probably the Cowboys out of the remaining teams. Because Green Bay with Huntley is not going to make it in. Detroit, I guess they have a good chance too, but
yeah, I'm looking at the Falcons, and I'd like to think them, but they have such a tough schedule. Granted, in their schedule, they still play the Saints once, they play the Saints twice and the Panthers, which would be big division wins if they can get them. But they're playing the Seahawks this week, and they also play the Buccaneers twice. They still have 5 division games left, which could put them huge in terms of tiebreakers for division. But their other 2 games are Seahawks and Vikings. Those are 2 hard games.
But it's definitely not a possibility.
At Seahawks as well. I'd like to see the Falcons. I think they have the talent to win a lot of these games, and I think they're going to pull off a few big upsets. I just think at this point the rest of their schedule is too tough for them to get there. I like the Saints. I like what they're doing. They don't have the hardest schedule in the world. They do play the Falcons twice, as mentioned, and the Panthers, and the Rams, and the Redskins, but they still have the Buccaneers once. I think they'll find a way to win that out. Panthers are just too Jekyll and Hyde. I think by the end of the year, the NFC South isn't going to look as tough as we think it is. I think they're good teams now. I think they're all solid teams, but I don't think that Saints are going to look like elite. I don't think that Panthers are going to look elite. I think Falcons are going to look roughly what they have been, having a few just bad, unlucky losses, and still a good team. None of those teams you really want to face, but I don't think any of them are cream of the crop either. So I'll go Saints for the win just because I don't trust the Panthers. I just don't trust the Panthers. They're just too Jekyll and Hyde. Going to the North, Vikings, I gotta take them. After seeing them last week, they're good on offense and on defense. They're better than the Lions. Lions are just too inconsistent. It's unfortunate Aaron Rodgers isn't playing because I'd love to see Packers Vikings again. Or really, it's just Aaron Rodgers Vikings because the Packers really don't put anything around him. I have Rams winning the West. The Rams have just been so impressive. The Fighting Sean McVays are legit. Seahawks, they do always turn on towards the end of the year. I expect them to be good. They're going to be my first wild card easily. I think Rams are going to beat them later in the year. As well, pretty much to take the division. I think that's going to be the deciding game, and I'll agree with the Eagles. My other wild card, let me see. I'm not sure. I want to see Lions because Lions don't have an impossible schedule. Because you look at their schedule, they face the Bears twice. And I'm not saying the Bears are bad. They have a good defense, but you don't trust them to win on offense. They do play the Vikings once, but the Ravens, the Buccaneers, the Bengals, the Packers, that's an easy road. I could see them taking that second wild card because they just have an easy road there. I don't even think they need to be the best team. And quite honestly, the Panthers or the Falcons might even be better than them. I know Falcons did get a win over the Lions earlier, so that could be a big tiebreaker. But I think Lions are going to get there just because their schedule's pretty easy.
Yeah, you're talking me into that with that schedule. So who do you have leaving out? You're leaving out the Panthers right now?
Panthers, Falcons, they're out. I'm leaving out Cowboys. I'm leaving out Skins. Leaving out. Yeah, that's pretty much any teams that I think have a chance.
Yeah, relevant.
Skins,
Yeah, the schedule's a good point. That did sound, doable at least. I mean, Stafford, it was last year, right, where he led all those fourth quarter comebacks.
Yeah.
And, he's shown it. He's shown it before, so it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world.
DQ, who you got?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking along the same thing with all you guys. Just like this is kind of the point of the season. I was listening to PMT today. We kind of know who the good teams are now. This was kind of the week where you kind of have a better idea of what the NFL is showing you right now. And just by looking at the divisions right now, you look at Philadelphia, they've had the wagons and they've been running for a while. They pretty much had a wrap. I got to give it to the Eagles there in the East. In the North, Minnesota has probably looked like the most complete team out of all the other teams in the North. It's unfortunate with Aaron Rodgers coming down. Chicago's been sneaky here and there, but they're just not going to win enough games. The defense is good, but Trubisky's not going to have enough weapons to distribute the ball around.
John Fox will find a way for them to lose. He'll challenge.
He'll challenge the win into the loss. Yeah.
He will just throw that red flag all day. Yeah. But anyway, Detroit, you like what you see in Detroit. They don't have bad pieces, but I just don't think they've really shown enough to make a run late. So it should go to Minnesota there. And in the South, I can see New Orleans and Carolina. But I kind of agree with you, Chase, too. Carolina's been Jekyll and Hyde. They've been in and out. Atlanta's got they still have that core group of guys that were in the Super Bowl last year. I think they should be good enough to make a run where they can win those games and make that last playoff spots. But I'm going to still give that to New Orleans. And I think the Rams are the real deal, though. I'm not buying Seattle. Seattle's been as streaky as they come. Their offensive line isn't that good. They've had a ton of injuries to their running back
Their O-line might be the worst offensive line in the league. Like, Redskins playing backups, and guys who just met Kirk Cousins were able to beat them. Yeah. Like, their D-line, Redskins' D-line was also missing two big players. One had a broken hand in the first quarter, Matt Ioannidis. They were able to just destroy they were rushing Russell Wilson. Like, they were in his face every single play.
Seattle's offensive line pretty much consists of like a fan contest. Like, hey, fan and sitting in CG 34, you are now right tackle for the game.
It's like Mark Wahlberg in Invincible.
Yeah, literally.
My gosh. Literally, and then on top of that too, they unfortunately lost Richard Sherman on the Thursday night game, so that doesn't help their defense. So I think the Rams.
What was up with Sherman? Have you ever seen a player? Have you ever seen a player just tear his ACL and then just casually walk around like throughout the game, just subtly like whispering in everyone's ear, like, "Yeah, I'm out for the season. I'm out for the season." No, like they kept flashing to him doing that. I'm like. Don't you want to get off the field or get it treated? I'm like, instead of like just casually walking around saying, yeah, I got my ACL torn. It is what it is. Like, you're bringing it up.
Yeah. He, I think it was an Achilles. I think he ruptured his Achilles.
Was it Achilles?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it was a torn ACL, I don't think he'd be walking around.
Yeah,
right?
True.
That would have been crazy.
Well, either way, I don't think.
No, either way. Either way,
Yeah.
it was a bad injury, and he was just walking around kind of like, yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's done. Yep, it's done. Like, kind of like seeking attention.
Yeah. And like and of course, like, the camera's always going to pan to him. So I know he might not even be too much into it. Granted, I'm not a big fan of his in the first place, but I was just like, you're going to like every single player, just sort of letting him know. I'm like, okay, we get it.
Like, he walks up to the long snapper, he's like, yep, you've heard right. I'm done for the year.
It's just, I just like, hey, did you know that he's out for the year? I didn't know. He didn't tell everyone. I sort of waited for him to walk up to a cameraman and just tell him that, like, before the game was over, just to go up to the camera and just sort of announce to everyone. All right, that's going to do it for this segment. Ran a little bit longer than I expected, but we'll get to our reviews and our locks coming up next. Stay tuned.
Kane is in the building.
What's up, guys? Chase Castle, DQ, Evan Krick, back here with the third segment and the preview for this upcoming week. Actually, it's week 11. Ignore what I said at the beginning of the show, right in the beginning of the show. It's not week 12, it's week 11. Don't worry, we're not at week 12 yet. We're only a week
to kill
away.
us all, Chase.
We're still at week 11, though. That's still unbelievable.
Oh, yeah, it's still bad. It's still bad.
But we're here. Let's go and preview these upcoming games. We're going to give our locks of the week against the spread, and we're also going to be throwing out some totals and betting the over-unders. Let's start off. First game, Thursday night, Titans-Steelers. Let's just say who wins this outright. I think it's Steelers, but I think it's going to be close. This isn't my lock, but I would bet Titans, not expecting them to win. But look, at the Steelers have had so many close games against teams that they should beat. The Colts almost beat the Steelers last week. Then it was a 3-point game. To the Lions, it was 20-15. To Chiefs, it was 19-13. Okay, that's actually reasonably close. Bears, 23-17. Browns, 21-18. You have a bunch of close games against teams that they should be beating. I think the Steelers always just sort of ride that sort of line. I think Titans keep it within their reach, but Steelers still win it.
The thing is, I feel like it's every year that Steelers have that one game where they literally don't come off the plane. Mm-hmm. And last year it was against the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah. You remember that? I think the Eagles were defeated at that point.
Yeah. I think they started off 3-0.
They were literally defeated, and they did not show up to play. So people thought it was going to be last week with Indianapolis, and it almost was. You gotta wonder if they still have it in them to give us that one game where they just don't even show up.
So that and Joe Hayden, I think, is out with a leg injury, right?
I think they did lose him.
And he was a big part of their secondary, so that's not
for the
favorable. Not actually, I was kind of surprised. I don't think he's out for the season. He might be out for the rest of the regular season, but if they do make the playoffs, he might be able to come back for that, which is kind of crazy considering he has a broken leg. Yeah. I think it's only a broken fibula. Want to know?
Oh, only a broken fibula, no problem.
Easy.
Yeah.
So it's not like the leg is completely broken. So
is he hurt or injured?
It's up for debate.
I don't know, Dr. Castle. You tell me. Is he hurt or injured?
So Chase, I'm with you with the 7. Take the points there. If we had to pick there, it's definitely not my lock either. But yeah, take the points.
Saints Redskins. Oh gosh, Redskins at Saints. I want to see who's healthy. If Jordan Reed somehow plays this game, I think Skins stand a chance. I'm not saying they win. I'm saying they stand a chance. I also think it depends who comes back on their line. If Zach Brown can stay healthy all game, Zach Brown can stop the run better than anyone on the Bills could. He's been the biggest. One of the biggest. Him and DJ Swearinger have been the biggest factors to this Redskins team. If Zach Brown can stay healthy and stop this run early, I think Redskins stand a chance. I think there's no way that Norman and Breland in the secondary comes out and flops like they did against the Vikings as they will against the Saints. The Saints actually don't have that many receiving options. Other than Michael Thomas, who else are they really going to? Willie Snead? Ted Ginn Jr.? I think I'm confident with us covering them. We'll be able to stack the box. I think it'll be a close one. If Jordan Reed plays, Redskins win. If he doesn't, they're not. I think they need him to be able to put up more points because we can't keep relying on guys just dropping the ball like Crowder, like Doxson tripping over himself, like Pryor just not really playing. There were drops all over the field. You need a guy with secure hands. That's Reed. If he plays, Redskins win. If he doesn't, they lose.
This is also one of those games that's got my little tiny gambling brain going. You got a Saints team that has, won. How many have they won straight? 5 in a row, and I think they've covered in all those 5 games too.
Really?
So not only have they covered, or not only have they won, they've covered, and they've done it also in pretty fantastic fashion and pretty they've been blowing teams out. So, and then also on the other side you got the Skins, who haven't been well against the spread, and they haven't been playing well recently. So it's one of those games where it's the public is gonna be on the Saints just because of how well they're playing and how bad the Redskins are playing. So
It smells.
You know what? I'm definitely not going to bet this game, but if I had to pick a side, I'd probably lean Skins.
To cover.
Yeah, to cover.
Or to cover. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, not to win. Sorry, Chase.
Oh no, I
was
didn't
gonna
expect
say.
that.
Let me see here. So I just gotta get back to my schedule down here. All right. So I just really like the way the Saints have been playing. I think they've really found a formula that works for them. I just think even if the secondary does show up, Chase, I don't think they're gonna pass the ball enough for the secondary to provide, ample opportunities for them to make plays. I feel like unless they're down. So like if the Skins get up early and the Saints start passing the ball and maybe force the ball down the field, I can see the Skins winning this. But the only way they do is they got to start scoring points early, which comes into your factor of Jordan Reed playing or not.
The thing is, Skins defense have allowed big passing plays. So, like, they haven't allowed big gaping runs really at all this year. You've had running backs that might be able to gain, like, you've had teams been able to run the ball against the Skins, but not have the breakout plays that, like, you saw. If you look against the Bills, a lot of the Saints rushing touchdowns were just breakaway plays from the running back, and the Redskins really haven't allowed many of those. I'm not saying that they've always been great, but the big plays have almost always been from the air. And if you can force it, and this is crazy saying it to Drew Brees, but I still trust that Josh Norman, Rashad Breeland, DJ Swearinger out there to help to sort of shut down like a guy like Michael Thomas. I just don't think they really have the weapons to get open for Brees and create some of those big plays, and that's why I think the Redskins will be able to stick in. Also, the Redskins, I think, I could be wrong, but they might lead the league in terms of opening drive touchdowns. Somehow, like, they almost start every game with a touchdown and then sort of screw it up somehow.
They started off with the one last week, right?
Yeah, they did last week, and I know they've done it against, like, a number of other teams. Like, even against the Eagles last time they played them, they start off with the touchdown, like, right off the bat.
They're one of those classic scrappy. They might not win every game, but they're one of those scrappy teams that's
they're going to
always
stay in this game.
Yeah.
This will not. I don't see this being a blowout like it was against the Bills, but knowing me, it will be.
Yeah, I'm not saying this is going to be a blowout either, but I will think that just because of the injuries, it's been really hard for them to compete at a high level. So, I mean, I think it's good. It could be like Saints by a field goal. I honestly do see that, but it's a weird game to pick because they are scrappy and they've still played well with even with all the injuries. But the Saints have been rolling though, so I feel like it continues. And I believe this is also in the Superdome.
Yeah,
right?
It is.
This is home, so and the Saints always play well at home. So I feel like I gotta pick Saints here.
We've beaten them there multiple. I think at least the last 2 times I think we've played there. Granted, that also goes back to RG3's first game.
Oh, that's going way back then.
Well, no, but I think
that was a different time.
We blew them out. I think there last year or 2 years ago. I forget which. It was last year or 2 years ago. We had we blew them out there. It was one of Cousins' best games. Let's move on. Chiefs Giants. Chiefs at -10. Giants are 1-8. I think this. I think people are going to be on the Chiefs because the Giants have been, but the 10.5's a lot.
Andy Reid off the bye. Reid off the bye.
Yeah.
That's what you got. That was this close. I'm probably gonna.
That's so true. I didn't even think of that. That's so true.
You know, I didn't even tell you guys before the season started. Our friends from school, Pat and Lou, I literally have a group text with them, and I text them on the train ride home because I think it was like they're opening on a Thursday, so I was at like happy hour.
Yeah.
I had this awakening in my train ride home after happy hour. I was like, hold the phone. Andy Reid starting the season, isn't that the ultimate Andy Reid off of a bye scenario? And that was when they, lo and behold, of course I couldn't get the bet in because the game had already started or something like that, or I was under a tunnel in the train or whatever.
It just wasn't meant to be.
The Patriots, and I couldn't believe it. I put the pieces of the puzzle together just too late. Just too late.
This Chiefs team just has all the pieces. The Chiefs are obviously going to win this. I'm still 10.5 points is a lot.
Yeah.
But
But Sanford rolled the Giants.
here's the case. Here's the case. If McAdoo is fired before this game, Giants cover. They don't win, but they cover. If he's still the coach, this team still has no faith in him. You look at how they played against the 49ers. You often see when a coach is fired, you bring in a new guy, like the players like just suddenly come back to life a little bit. I could see the Giants covering if they have someone that's not Ben McAdoo coaching them. With McAdoo still as coach, Chiefs cover.
Betting a team after their coach has been fired, that's always a smart move. That's always a smart bet, because then the players are all riled up and they're like, oh, we're gonna do it. We're gonna prove that we can still be a functioning team. And sometimes it's we're gonna prove that we're for our old coach. We're gonna do it for our old coach. Or now it's like, oh, now we want to make a statement because now we have the pieces in check and now we're ready. So yeah, betting a team after your coach is fired is always a smart move.
Let's move on down to the next game. Pats Raiders -6.5. Let's move through this one a little bit faster. I'd probably put the Pats I know probably the public's probably on Pats as well, but it's 6.5. That's a generous spread for them. It's not 7 even. You still win if they win by a touchdown. Raiders have pieces there, and I get the Pats defense isn't that good. But Pats are just the better team, and the Raiders just can't find ways to win right now.
They're struggling.
I think Pats actually cover here as well.
Yeah, I would say cover, yeah. I'd say definitely cover. And the Patriots, just the way they played a Mile High, too, that was kind of like coming off the bye. They want to just remind everybody, yeah, we're still here, and we're still really, really good. So,
also, Raiders secondary is trash. Complete trash. David Amerson is a fraud.
Outside of Khalil Mack, there is nobody on that defense that really scares me.
Him and Irvin. Bruce Irvin.
Okay, you can argue Irvin. On, third down, you can be worried about him. But, other than that, I don't think you're worried about much on that defense. And the Patriots just have every way, especially late in the season, they just know how to win games and get a playoff spot. So, I think the 6.5 is also a good number for them in this scenario. So, I think they win and they cover.
Yeah, Pats have this. They should have this pretty easy. Teams have figured out that all they have to do is eliminate Bruce Irvin from the defense, and then they can just do as they wish with whatever whatever else remains behind them. So Pats should win pretty easy. Bill Belichick's good enough where he can take away a player like that.
Let's head down to the next game, Sunday night, Cowboys Eagles. I got my pick of the week, lock of the week against the spread. I'm picking Eagles here. We talked about this in the break, and Evan, you even sort of agreed with me. Without Sean Lee there, you don't have Zeke. They couldn't do anything against the Falcons. I am putting it off of what have you done for me lately, but it's also the what have you done for me lately is seeing the only game we've seen where the Cowboys haven't had Zeke. And
yes.
Even if they get Tyron Smith back, this Eagles defense is, I still think, very underrated. One of the best ones in the league. They now have J.J. with now 2 full weeks actually playing with them, and he played well in that first game that they had. Who did they play? I forget. Whatever, but
Denver,
another good defense there. This Eagles team, I think, is just going to roll over the Cowboys at this point. I know it's a division matchup, and anything happen. I saw Colt McCoy beat the Cowboys when Redskins had nothing, and I've also seen the Cowboys beat the Redskins when the Redskins were great. And so I could easily fault this because I always say NFC's games are going to be close regardless, but this is just set up for the Eagles right now. Stuff just hasn't fallen the Cowboys' way.
I think this line should be at least 4 or 5.
Yeah.
No Sean Lee, and I think Tyron's going to play, but if he doesn't, if it's the same group of this horrible storm of awfulness where Tyron Smith's out, Sean Lee's out, and everything else, it's not going to be good. The only way I see them winning is if I think they have a chance if they have to have one or the other. It can't go either way. Well, actually, I don't even know because Chaz Green was so bad that if Tyron Smith isn't there, I think they might not have a chance.
They should just pull in Jason Witten. He's a phenomenal blocker. Just pull him at tight end.
They got to do something. They got to do something because they started leaving Rod Smith in to help him block, but it clearly wasn't enough. They have, and I think Jason Garrett's smart enough where they looked at what was working and wasn't working this past week, and they will definitely have extra packages in where they'll have a blocking tight end on that side if Tyron's not ready to go for a lot of sets.
Yeah.
So, they need one. They need one or the other. That's my take. If not, this spread's way too small.
Like, I expect Cowboys to look a little bit better than they did last week, at least on offense. But I don't think that's really enough. The Eagles have just been destroying teams left and right. I just see Eagles running away with this. Lions, Bears. I don't even care about this game too much. Like, I think Lions are going to win. But it's like at Bears, Lions are -3. They've been so up and down. I could see Bears winning this. I could also see Lions. This is not a game I would touch with like a 10-foot pole. Like it's like the Grinch.
Yeah, no.
Just stay away.
This is like the Grinch game. Just don't even bother with. I say Lions will win this. Matt Stafford's still a good quarterback. He's a guy who finds ways to win. So like. And Bears aren't going to put up enough points to really take this one away. So Lions find a way to win in this because if it comes down the end and it's a close game, Stafford will find a way to win. I guess I'd pick Lions to cover because I think their ceiling's a lot higher than the Bears. And 3 points isn't enough. I'd pick the Lions, but I really wouldn't touch the game for the most part anyway.
Yep, I totally agree. Lions should have. They shouldn't have any. But you know what? I also wouldn't be surprised if the Bears came out and somehow won this game. They're also one of those teams that like they don't know how to tank and they don't know how to win. Yeah. So they're just kind of stuck doing, showing
the
up
Jets of the NFC.
I said, you know what? I think that's accurate. I think that's accurate because they can't pick a side. So yeah.
Let's move down to the next game, the Toilet Bowl game. The Browns, the only 0-9 team left in the NFL, against the Jaguars. Jaguars win.
Can you still call it the Toilet Bowl game? Now that Jags are good?
Well, I prefer it as a toilet bowl only because the Browns still have a 0 in front of as their win. So it's going to be a toilet bowl any game the Browns play in. They're also named the Browns. What goes in the toilet bowl? Brown.
Yep.
And Jaguars still wear their like sort of pea-colored jerseys. I only wish if only this was on the Color Rush. That'd just be too much.
Oh my gosh! Just so many bad images.
7.5 is a lot, but you are going up against the Browns, and that defense, like you don't need Blake Bortles to score that much because I think the defense will score probably as much as the Jaguars offense does. I think Jacksonville. I'd pick Jackson. I'm picking so many overs right now. I don't like it, but I'd pick Jacksonville to win. This again wouldn't really be a game I'd touch. Jacksonville's going to win it outright. I just don't know by how much.
Yeah, you got to think they're going to get at least one defensive touchdown against Kaiser, right? Mm-hmm. Like by the way, we didn't even talk about this. The freaking QB sneak that had to have been Kaiser's call, right? There's no way Hugh Jackson called it.
Why would you? There was 10 seconds left.
You had time. That was so bad.
You had time to get a playoff, like multiple plays off, and it just screwed up.
Any hope that Deshaun Kaiser had of possibly being the quarterback next year disappeared on that play.
Did Hugh Jackson come out and say that it was his call?
I don't think so. I think I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure Kaiser made that. I think he audibled into a QB sneak, like he shouted something at the line and kind of was like.
Like Cody Kessler last year at least showed you flashes of being like an okay QB. Kaiser's shown nothing. He has headaches and he can't handle it. Heck, even put in Kevin Hogan. He went to like one of my rival high schools. I got to see him play in high school against my team. We actually won.
There you
go. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Just so you know. But just take out Kaiser. I'm fed up with. I don't even like Kaiser at this point. He's a Notre Dame prissy who can't handle the game. Jags, whatever. Move on to the next. Ravens, Packers. Oh, another lovely game. Just something I really want to watch. Brent Hundley versus Flacco. Gosh, the amount of injuries in the NFL is actually that's hurt the NFL more than anything else.
Now is Woodhead back this game though, or is he back the next game? I'm pretty sure Woodhead's
hamstring.
Woodhead's coming back soon, right?
Is he coming?
It might if it's not this game, I'm pretty sure he's back the next game, so that'll at least be something for Baltimore.
That'll be something, but like then he'll get injured in 2 games.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
Like
It's only a matter of time.
he'll get injured twice this season. Like it's sort of inevitable.
Yeah.
Granted, seeing elite hand off to elite it will be great for a little while. But
I'd probably lean Packers here.
Really?
Lean Packers at home. I mean, like, do you trust Flacco on the road?
I think Flacco's a guy. Him, like Cutler, they don't have the same demeanor, but like they're guys that just don't care wherever they play. Like nothing really phases them. Like they throw a pick and they still just have like the stone cold face. Like it doesn't matter. I think Flacco's sort of like that. He plays in the AFC North, like, and this is the NFC North. Like he's played outside. He's played in bad weather. He knows what it's like to do that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think playing at Lambeau. I also think Lambeau's not the same right now. Their team's horrible. Lambeau's not used to seeing bad teams. They've gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. All they've seen were really good teams and consistent quarterback play. And now they don't. I don't think Lambeau really gets that into seeing Brent Hundley because I think they've already accepted their season's over. I have Ravens in this. I'm not gonna lie. I have Ravens. You got a guy who knows how to play outside as well. I'm not saying I love this game either way, and I'm not saying it's by an overwhelming margin. I still am going to pick the Ravens here.
I like the Ravens too because the Packers do have some injuries too. Aaron Jones is out. Brian Bulaga is out. Ty Montgomery is probably not going to play, and they're missing Morgan Burnett, who's also questionable.
And they just let go of Martellus Bennett after he faked an injury.
After he faked it, so
yeah, what the hell?
That is
crazy.
Confusing. I literally have no idea what happened to that, but regardless of the fact, the Ravens also have a pretty sneaky defense as well. Like they're kind of like the Saints, where they've had a pretty good season collectively, and it's the Green Bay offense is just nothing like what it was when Aaron Rodgers was playing. There's no level of what's the word that Ben McAdoo used that everybody thought was fake word, explosivity or something like that. There's no explosivity in this offense, and yeah, like everyone's like wondering because everybody's seeing now this team was built for Aaron Rodgers, and now without Aaron Rodgers, this team is nothing because all these guys like, oh wow, Jordy Nelson's a top 5 receiver, Devontae Adams is an up and coming guy, and then all of a sudden you take him out, and then these guys are practically nothing. They've really done nothing since Rodgers has left. So I like Baltimore. I'm with Chase. I think Flacco plays well outside. I think they're going to keep the game plan fairly conservative. They have a good committee of running backs in the backfield. So I think it's not going to be an exciting game, but it should be a Ravens win.
Let's move on. Let's keep this one quick. Buccaneers Dolphins. We got a big game coming up right after this, and Rams Vikings. Let's just keep this quick. I don't know. Buccaneers have a win. I think they have more talent than the Dolphins. I guess I'll pick Buccaneers in this battle of Florida.
These two teams have both been shown that they can really just put up a huge a huge pile of poop for their games. Like, come on, they're not good.
Who's the better quarterback in this matchup, Cutler or Fitzmagic?
Oh gosh,
that is a good question. I'd probably lean. We got Mike Evans back, right?
Yes, but I'm just saying.
Better quarterback. Yeah. I'd probably go Fitzmagic.
Yeah.
The guy, you gotta love his heart and how he just doesn't
Bearded
care.
wonder, absolutely.
Like he just gets CTE on every play. It's great.
Like how I see it is that Buccaneers have the slightly better quarterback. They have the better receiving core. I think Buccaneers just win because of that. They just have more talent, and I think when it comes to a game like this, 2 bad teams, you end up just picking the team that has more talent. I'm not sold on this, just like sort of Baltimore Packers. I'm picking Baltimore because it makes sense, but again, they failed me before. It's going to be a close game. It's something I probably wouldn't want to touch again, but. I just pick Buccaneers because they actually have more talent as a whole. Granted, Dolphins defense isn't horrible, but
I'm probably picking Buccaneers this week too.
Rams Vikings, biggest game of the week. I think we've already sort of stated who we want. Me and Damien, we're both on Rams. On Rams. You're on Vikings.
It's my lock.
And it's
And
your
it's my lock.
yep, it's your lock.
Whoop, whoop,
Okay,
whoop.
go ahead,
Wow.
explain
Yep.
yourself. Explain yourself.
Well, I just think, the Rams. It's one of those. They're the kind of like the sweethearts of the league right now, and I just feel like they haven't gone up against good enough competition yet. Granted, they did beat Jacksonville. I'm looking back at this now, and I did not see that before, so I'm kind of regretting making it up. But I'm going to stick with it. They were able to put up 27 in Jacksonville, but I don't care because now we have this Minnesota team who is, they're coming off a great win against the Washington Redskins, and I feel like their defense is better built to kind of stop I feel like this is going to be a classic game where no one scores, which is why I also, if you want to wet your beak on an under, I kind of like this under too. I feel like this is going to be one of those games that ends like 14-3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the Vikings here better. I feel like the Rams are due for a stinker game. I feel like they're due. They put up 41 against 49ers, 35 against Cowboys, then they only put up 10 against the Seahawks, and then they've scored 27, at least 27 since. I don't know. I just feel like they're due.
And heck, you might be right.
The one wrinkle I did not notice that they beat
having seen the Vikings play, they have so much more talent on offense than you'd think. The thing is, I trust Sean McVay's offensive play calling. Like he beat the Sean McVay and the Redskins beat the Vikings last year, and this was McVay calling the game with a Redskins team as well that didn't have a guy in Todd Gurley on their team. Granted, they've had better receivers and or I'd say a better quarterback, but he still found a way to beat them there. This is I think we can all agree probably is the best game of the weekend. I think it's better than Falcons Seahawks, and I really want to see this. Granted, I don't think I'll be able to because Skins are playing, but I want to go back. I'll be watching the highlights. I'll be trying to keep an eye on this game, flipping back and forth.
So I'm actually doing a little
Rams, but I'm not sold. I don't want to touch this game again.
Doing a little bit more research. We're looking at they've played 4 road games so far. The Rams have, and I think they've won. They're 4-0 so far on the road. They've beaten the 49ers on that crazy Thursday night game. They've beaten the Cowboys. 2 teams. You would argue that they don't really have that great of a home field advantage. Yeah, then they won at Jacksonville.
That was still beating the Cowboys with Zeke and a good Cowboys team.
No, you're right. Yeah. But my point here is their other road win was in Jacksonville. That's not historically not a great home field advantage. True. And the Giants, when their season was already over. So they really haven't faced a good team with on the road with a good home crowd. Yeah. And I feel like the Vikings, they have one of the best home crowds in football probably. So I don't know, it's a good test for them. We'll see.
It's a good point. I'm just excited for this game. Tim, you got any final thoughts before we move on?
Nah, I think I'm on the same page as both of you. I think it's going to be extremely competitive. I think it's going to be interesting to see what kind of test, because you kind of forget that Minnesota's a rowdy crowd. They have that big horn in the back too.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Believe me,
I was a low-key rowdy crowd back there.
I was at the Redskins stadium, and it felt like an away game. And you had a bunch of people doing their their clap, the skull, whatever.
And here's the thing: it's the line's 2.5, or it might be 3 at some places.
It's 2.
It's 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So even then, at that point, you're asking me, do I think the Vikings win? And I think they do. So that's why I think they're...
Trust Vegas. Yeah. This game, I do want to touch on. Cardinals versus Texans. I sort of like this Cardinals team. Against the Texans. The Texans defense has not been nearly as... It isn't anything like it was last year. I think this Cardinal team is going to win and win by more than 1 point. They still have talent. They have Adrian Peterson randomly goes off. Larry Fitzgerald randomly goes off. Stanton hasn't been as horrible as he has been before. I sort of like this Cardinals team to actually win this.
I'm kind of with you because when you come to a team that their strength is their defense, and then you come to a point in the season where it becomes relevant that they're not going to make the playoffs anymore, defense is all about, putting forth the effort. Once you get to the point where you're not going to win or you're not going to make the playoffs, that's where you can start to see teams not try on defense. You saw it with the New York Giants last week with, Eli Apple just not even trying to tackle. So you could see that. You could very well see that here, especially. So they got Tom Savage at quarterback, and then you potentially have a defense that's not going to be trying as hard. I'm just playing this out in my head. I'll probably bet the Cardinals this week.
Yeah. DQ?
I like the Cardinals, too. They've been playing fairly well, too. Tristan has had some pretty good games so far. Adrian Peterson has had some pretty wacky games, too. You never know when he's going to bust a long one. So, and then Houston has just not been that same team ever since Deshaun Watson went down. They don't have that same fire. The offense is not nearly what it was when he was playing, and defense I don't think has that same ferocity as well. So I think the Cardinals can win this as well. Is this in Arizona?
No, it's in Houston.
This is in Houston.
But it's Tom Savage. It doesn't matter.
I can give It's Tom Savage. Yes. Again, we're being reminded that this isn't a name that people are, or at least defensive coordinators, are not losing sleep over. No. So I think this should be an Arizona win.
Okay, we got 3 games left. Let's try to get through these fast. Maybe this last one, the last one might take a little while, but Bills Chargers. I think this is going to be a tough one because you have Chargers looking sort of confident against the Jags, and the Bills coming off a bunch of losses. Chargers actually favored by 4. I'm going to go with Bills with this one. It's hard not to. I think this is about even, and you have the -4 with the Chargers. I'd be betting the Bills if I had to bet one of these teams. And Tyrod's
This is essentially asking, are the Bills going to be in full meltdown mode?
Yeah.
After this last loss.
Yeah, this is their chance to turn it around. The Chargers are never going to be an easy team to play. They're always going to grind it out. And part of the reason that I'm holding back is okay, Philip Rivers can't win in the fourth quarter, but since when have the Bills ever shown do they have game-winning drives ever? Do they have
I think this
you know what I mean?
This is a perfect case of you have a team that has overperformed throughout the first half of the year in the Bills, and then you have a team that's greatly underperformed in the Chargers. So that's why I'll probably take the Chargers this week to cover and win. Yeah.
What's the story with Tyrod Taylor? Is he going to play this week after getting benched? Is Peterman
you would think so? Yeah,
he's going to play. So. He's going to play. He was playing horrible in the game. They had to bench him. It's not like this has been too consistent in them being that bad. It
also was so out of hand it didn't.
I'm still picking Bills. I just think there's still more talent. And I like Sean McDermott a lot. I like that defense. They can hold the Chargers down a bit. And they'll find ways to just put up points. I don't like this game a lot in the first place, but check the Bills. Going down, Bengals Broncos. Another game nobody really cares about. Broncos are favored at 2.5. This is in Mile High. I'll pick the Broncos, but this is a game that I don't care about. So little that I could bet on it and try to make it interesting for me to watch. But I don't even want to bet on this because they're just 2 teams. I'm
this was. I think I made a great point with the defensives not trying because the Eagles against the Broncos last week, or was that 2 weeks ago?
It was 2 weeks ago.
Whatever. Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was another case of showing when your defense is your strength, and all of a sudden your offense isn't performing and your team is not winning. Mm-hmm. This defense stops trying, and then you're really screwed. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I would pick Broncos too. Just Andy Dolan. Come on, he's been terrible this year.
He has been.
So, he really has been that good.
I like my
DQ. Who you got?
I don't know. I'm back and forth. Denver doesn't have that same nastiness that it had on those great defenses when Manning was there. But oh God, because you never know when the Red Rifle and AJ Green are just gonna hook up for a long bomb and Joe Mixon could run. God,
Is
I'll probably just
AJ
pick the
Green going to
Broncos.
like headlock Aqib Talib and like still manage to catch the ball while he's headlocking Aqib Talib for a touchdown or something?
That might be the only
Aqib
reason why I
Talib's
watch this
feisty.
game.
He'll get in a fight. He's stabbed a guy
Yeah.
before, or has been stabbed, something like that.
No, I think he's been shot. I think he was shot.
Oh,
right?
shot and stabbed. I don't
Something
care.
like that.
I don't know.
Who cares?
Let's get to the final game of the week.
He likes to live life on the edge.
Final game of the week, Falcons Seahawks. This is Falcons at Seahawks. This is do or die, sort of another do or die game for the Falcons. Seahawks really want this because they know it's a tough NFC race. This is in Seattle. Seahawks are coming off a win against the Cardinals last Thursday, so they're coming in a little bit more rested. I'm picking the Seahawks. I think they're better, but Falcons, they had a big win against the Cowboys, and then I don't think that they're oftentimes you think, okay, big win, Redskins had the big win against the Seahawks, and they come in, they think they got this. They think they can beat even a team that's probably better than them in the Vikings and take it easy and lose. Falcons are coming in sort of knowing that they're still in, they need to fight to survive.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a really good game.
Yeah, it'll be a good game. No
Devonta
Freeman, though.
I'm still liking the Seahawks, but I did see no Devonta Freeman, which is huge. But I think even with Tevin Coleman, you can probably,
Tevin Coleman's good enough.
You can find ways to run against the Seahawks, easier than you think. I'm still going to pick the Seahawks in this one. Seahawks home field advantage is huge. Again, with the spread, I might even pick the Falcons, and I actually think this is going to be higher. I'd probably take the over on the total as well. Seahawks haven't been scoring. The past two games have been a little low, but throughout the season, they've been putting up a decent amount. Falcons still have a pretty explosive offense that can put up points even without Devonta Freeman. I'd pick over 45 for the total.
We did kind of see what the Falcons can do when a team has a crappy offensive line, and we do know the Seahawks have a crappy offensive line. So that kind of is in their favor, but I probably lean Seahawks too in this game.
TQ?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the inconsistency in the fact of the offensive line play with Seattle and the way that Atlanta got to Dak Prescott this past week with Adrian Claiborne getting there 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on top of that, Richard Sherman being gone, and I know it's home field advantage. If this was a different Seahawks team from the past couple years, I would pick Seahawks hands down. But I kind of like Atlanta. I think Atlanta can make enough plays to not only stay in this game but win this game. Tevin Coleman is a very capable running back, and I just feel like the Seahawks just don't really have the pieces to be a team like Atlanta this week.
Yeah. It's going to be good. I'll be rooting for the Falcons. I'll tell you that. I'm not really a big Seahawks fan. Just to sort of, I guess, wrap up. Evan, your team and my team are tied for first place right now in our fantasy league.
Ooh,
I now don't have Zeke, and your team also happens to be named Mr. Meezeeks. I actually have your team photo it'll be in the YouTube podcast. You can see it with the Mr. Meezeeks if you watch Rick and Morty on top of Zeke. Best of luck.
Yeah.
Hope to see you in the championship.
Yeah, we're going down to the final stretch, so it'll be fun.
I'm going to need to find a replacement for Zeke right now, and hopefully Alfred Morris can start putting up a few points, and he can become their bell cow. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
It was a great show.
Do it again sometime.
Yeah.
Do it again sometime.
We'll definitely have you on. There's plenty of weeks left. It's not week 12. It's week 11.
It's not week 12.
We got one more week, guys. We got one more week.
All right. That's the show. Stay tuned next week. I'm going to try to get these shows out on Wednesdays from now on out on YouTube. For anyone that's listening, the few people there are. But we'll try to have a guest, possibly Justin Palazza or Connor Gleason next week. I've reached out to both, and both have shown interest in doing the show, so I'll see if they can do it next week. But thank you again, Evan, and have a good week. Go NFL, I guess. Peace.